Wow, what a grand party we are having here. What a celebration of a life we are having here. If you are sitting on the aisles and don't need to be on an aisle because you're speaking or something, if you wouldn't mind moving in a little bit, then that gives us open space for the people who are coming in looking for a seat. Thank you, appreciate that. Yes. And there's lots of room over here. And there's a few seats I see scattered in the middle here. So, and then of course the chairs in the back. Yeah. So welcome, welcome. We are so pleased to have you here. Suzanne and I were just chatting, and I said, "Wow, if Jack isn't here already, I know he's coming." Can feel that. Can feel that spirit. What's that? Is there a seat? Yes, we'll leave a seat. We've got 4 of them up here, so. Well, thank you so much for being here. My name is Kristen Powell. I have the great privilege of being the minister here now, just about a year. So some of you may have known David MacArthur, who was a dear friend and connection with Jack as well. And so we call David's spirit in with us as well today. And just, my heart is so full. Is yours? Yeah, yeah. I didn't get to know Jack really well, but just a few exchanges and times we had a few words with each other. But I knew he was a kind of person that had an impact on people, you know? And I can see that and feel that now, so I'm just sort of taking that in along with you. So today we come together both to celebrate Jack's life, but also there is sadness for some, and has been along the way since you've known about his illness and his transition. And so it's a day of just full emotion, isn't it? There are tears of sadness of missing his physical presence, and there is joy of this great soul that touched our lives and wonderful memories of ways that we were impacted. So for all of those reasons, and with all of that in mind, let's take a moment to pray together and to really bring our energy here fully connected in a conscious way to the spirit that draws us together. So as we allow ourselves to move our energy, our attention to our hearts, if they weren't already fully opened, we open them now to the spirit that is here now. The love and the blessings of Jack. And the thanksgiving for Jack for bringing us together. Not just now, but all the ways that Jack has brought community together. We give thanks for the spirit within us and all around us that comforts us today. It brings a real sense of, even though there's sadness, all is well. All is certainly well for Jack as he continues on in a new form, or perhaps a formless way, but still with those same base characteristics, still with the joy and the love and the peace, the vibrancy of life. And so we thank you, God, for this dance, this short dance that we have on the earth to play and to work and to serve and to relate and to share our compassion and our kindness with one another. And certainly we give thanks for this soul that demonstrated that for us so beautifully. We give thanks for the ritual of coming together. We give thanks for the ritual that connects us so deeply through one soul, through one divine expression on the earth. There is so much to be grateful for. And so we just bring our whole true selves today, our authentic being to this space, whether it is tears or laughter or both. Whether it is with a heavy heart or a sense of joy and relief and freedom and celebration for Jack's freedom. All of it is welcome here. And so it is. Amen.
I really don't know, and I started to cry. And I miss you, my brother. And I miss you, my friend. This is not the end. It's the other side. It's just the other side. It's the other side of life. Yes, the other side of life. Far away. You're not so far away. Close to me. Any time, any place. I close my eyes and I see your face. And I miss you, my father. And I miss you, my friend. This is not the end. It's the other side. It's just the other side. It's the other side of life.
So I invite you to allow an image or a feeling of Jack to fill your heart now. Perhaps there's a memory that comes forth or a blessing you wish to share with him. We invite you to do that now.
I miss you, my beloved, and I miss you, my friend. Now that you are free on the other side, wait for me on the other side of life. I can see the other side. Love you, Jack.
That was absolutely beautiful. As I walk up here, I say, Jack, why did you do this to me this morning, asking me to be here, to not to be here, but to be up here rather than down there? Jack and I have known each other for 27,806 days. No, wrong number. Sorry, Jack. Sorry. We have known each other for 7,962 days. And that was, of course, on May 20th, 1995, as long as he and his lovely wife, Suzanne, have been married. I happened to be present, had come from New Orleans to join what was then my lady friend, now my wife, Margarita. She is a great, good, close friend to Suzanne. And Jack had met them. And I was making my first maiden voyage to California to how to discover this lady that I had met in New Orleans, and I was invited to your wedding, so that's how our journey began. So my first name is Pather, Gaelic word for Peter. Last name is Dalton, and I'm really honored to be asked to share some thoughts and reflections. I want to begin by saying that myself and Jack have chit-chatted with each other during the week, over the last couple of weeks, in preparation for this moment. And I want to invite Jack as our guest of honor here today. So it's not like we're talking about Jack, that he's out there, up there, and as the pastor said, thank you very much for welcoming us to your lovely church family here, Pastor Kristen. So as you said, that he's our guest of honor. Jack, you are a guest of honor. So I'm going to speak to Jack today, and I'm going to hopefully invite Jack to speak to us through whatever words I'm influenced or inspired to share for you this morning, Jack. He led me to a passage from Gibran's book, The Prophet, and he also led me to a passage from what I like to call the Bible, God's love letter to us and to all of us. And so I'll begin with that, Jack, in honor of your eternal spirit, because today, Jack, we're saying hello to you under a new set of envelopes, so to speak. We're saying goodbye to the physical presence, and we're saying hello to the continued presence, Jack, of your spirit, and how you have loved and touched all of our lives. And you have put, in, from my set of lenses, Suzanne, your lovely husband, has put a face, so to speak, his face, Jack Shaffer's face here, to the divine presence during his dance on this earth from January 31, 1941 to March 18th, 2018. And that's the days of 27,806 days, Jack, that you have blessed this earth with your presence. Now, I know there's a mathematician down there somewhere, Jack, in the audience that's saying, aha, did you remember the leap years? Yeah, Jack, you reminded me of the leap years. You had, I believe you had 13 of them somewhere in that ballpark. So that's part of the 27,806 days, Jack, that you blessed this earth and blessed so many people's lives. So the passage from Gibran's book on death, which is a beautiful small little book that's well worthwhile, wouldn't you say, Jack, to have in all of our homes? It's a very simple line that says, how can we seek the meaning of death, our own death, your death, Jack, unless we seek it where? In the heart of life. And so, Jack, we know you sought the meaning of your own physical death on March 18th of this year, 2018, by having sought it in the heart of living and the heart of life. And that's kind of added to and affirmed and reinforced by God's love letter. A gorgeous line that might have been shared on your wedding day, Suzanne, on that beautiful day of May 20th, 1995. Remember, guys, when we all kind of hovered around Jack? About maybe 15 or 20 minutes with the group men. Don will share in a few moments on behalf of that wonderful community of guys. And we hovered around him and wished him well. And that's a wonderful moment that I was honored to be part of. And the line that could have been shared, and certainly if it wasn't, the essence of its meaning was shared that day. It says very simply in the 7th verse of Paul's letter to Corinthians, what? Jack, tell me, what, about 1990 years old? And here we are today on the 28th day of April 2018, Jack, honoring your continued blessings and love and affirmation and validation of all of us, and especially your family. And it's still relevant. And it simply says, there is no end to love's forbearance, to its trust, its hope, its power to endure, love does not fail. And to add the ingredients of that line from Galatians, it simply says the fruits of the Spirit are, and Jack, you extended these gifts through your human face and divine presence on this earth. And it says they are, what are they? They're meekness, humility, joy, kindness, gentleness. And there's a couple more words in there describing that. And then there's a line that says, and there is no law against those. And so, Jack, I see those lines from Gibran's book, The Prophet. How can we seek the mean of death unless we seek it in the heart of life? And the gift, there's no end to love's forbearance. And so here we are honoring you, Jack, this morning. And I'm going to just simply say that, Jack, you were and are. I think, ladies and gentlemen, family especially, it is so important that that Jack reminds us this morning that there's no past tense or future tense in his current experience of eternal love. I mean, I don't know exactly what we describe as God, heaven, up in the sky, all that language. But it's much simpler than that, Jack, isn't it? You arrived home to your eternal home on the 18th day of March 2018 by taking that last physical breath into not a strange home, into a familiar home to you. And of course, no doubt, having been greeted, and I did write down your lovely mom and dad's name, and we haven't been greeted by your dad Vern, and by your mother Fidelis, and by your brother Richard, and by grandparents, and by family members and friends who had welcomed you home. So Jack arrived with that. Jack, I know you arrived with that incredible smile. I mean, it is so easy to use the metaphor that Jack's face is an extension of the divine presence, as you beautifully shared in your prayer on this earth. Jack, you have that face. So you arrived home there, having already begun, Jack, for want of a better term, your heavenly experience of home in your life relationships, beginning as a son, and having received from your mother in your mother's womb. And ladies and gentlemen, Jack would want me to remind us all of this, that we have all received from our mother's womb, as he did, the essence of what life is about: belonging and hope and nurturing care and comfort and intimacy and bonding and closeness. My goodness, Jack, I'd imagine, would you say, you know this better now than we do, I would imagine that if we were asked the question about a week or two before we were born, do you want to leave where you are, Pather, or do you want to leave where you are, Jack? I said, what do you mean, do I want to leave where I am? I'm having everything I need here in my mother's womb: love, bonding, closeness, safety, nurturing care. And then Jack emerged from the womb on the 31st day of January 1941. And having received those gifts from his parents and experiencing for the first time a glimpse of the divine presence by that bonding, and then sharing his experience as a brother. And we learned, Jack, I'm sure you learned a lot from your brother, and vice versa, as we all do today. And the words that I'm sharing this morning on your behalf, Jack, aren't you wanting me to also, that it kind of spills over to our lives today? I think Jack is saying, I want to continue to bless you all for being here this morning. And that we're a unique, Jack, we are a unique community gathered in your presence on this 28th day of April 2018 that will never again come together, ever. And so we're bonded with one another through the divine presence of Jack Shaffer's spirit. So let's remember one another. Jack wants us to do that we remember one another, and that he would want us to be blessed with those gifts of gentleness in our own relationships, our humility, our support, our encouragement that he exemplified, Jack, that you exemplified in your own life. And then, of course, through his relationship with his children's mother, Sally, thank you for being here this morning, then Jack was eternally, Jack, you were eternally gifted with the legacy of your life, your children. And so today then we offer, Jack, on behalf of the entire community here today, we offer to your son Jay right here in front of me, to Aaron and to Megan, whose lives emerged from your mother's womb and from Jack and your mother's love for each other, here you are this morning. So I know that, Jay, you're going to speak on behalf of your dad here in a few moments, but we'll just simply say, stay in touch with each other. Jack wants his 3 children to stay in touch with each other. And I don't know your story, so I can say it out loud. So stay. I have no idea what your story, because if it was an Irish family, there's shenanigans always. So I'm not sure that there's any American family from my 47 years here that doesn't have their shenanigans. So I say then to the 2 daughters and son, stay in touch. And I always encourage the children get together. You probably have done this already. And Jack, I know you'd want them to do this. Get together on your own, without spouses, partners, or children, and chit-chat about the memories of Dad. As little girls, little boy, the sports, the graduations, the kindergartens, the first grade, the 8th grade, the high school, the relationships, the fusses, the making up, all that goes with the dynamics of thousands of exchanges between yourself and your father. You're doggone lucky to have Jack Shaffer as your dad. And I know that he's saying today, my life could not have been as rich in any way, shape, or form had any one of you not come into the world. So it's an awesome legacy. And of course, you gave him the gift of grandfatherhood, if there's such a word, in the birth of the 3 grandchildren. So the line here with Jack is helping all of us to be aware of is that his life, his legacy, Jack, in it, is your relationships. And what's the underpinning running river in Jack's life, in all these relationships? His naturalness. Jack, your naturalness. Your naturalness, your smile, your gentleness, your quiet touch, multiple gifts. And so to the 3 grandchildren, Noah bringing an incredible gift to your granddad in 2001, and Ruby 2004, and Sadie 2007. I think they're the years that you were born. So I want to say, Jack, your granddad is speaking to you all, you know that. And so I think what your granddad would want me to say to you all today is, and Jack began his faith tradition as a Catholic, and he was embedded with good Jesuit theology, which I would expect helped him to be a good liberal, do I want to say Democrat? No? Independent? Somewhere around that line. Yeah. I can't imagine him being the R word, but maybe, might be. He might have converted, I don't know. But anyways, there's a lovely line, there's a lovely language in Catholic spirituality, and it's not exclusive to Catholic spirituality. And of course, Jack's journey continued, is a guardian angel. And so I deeply believe that your granddad is your guardian angel right now. And we mourn with you this morning, and with all of your loss. I don't want to in any way minimize the physical presence of Dad here in your lives, and your husband, and your father, and your grandfather. It's huge. My memory of my first loss that shook me up big time in my life was my grandfather in 1953. It was a big deal. Probably Sadie's age at the time. And so, but Granddad is showing up, not will, is showing up. Memories, feel in all of our lives, actually, all of us, Suzanne, all of your lives, showing up in our lives, in your lives, crossroads in your lives, a relationship that may be difficult and uncertain, a self-esteem issue, whatever it may be, down about something, anxious about something, touch base with Granddad. He's right around you. I remember when 2 little girls were drowned in Townland in Western Ireland many, many years ago. We were about 5 years old, 6 years old. I remember the parish priest at that time telling us, we asked, where are the father? I have never forgotten this image. He raised both of his arms, he looked under both of his arms and says, right there. I've never forgotten that. So Granddad is right there, right here. There's a lovely line from the author of The Little Prince. It is only with the heart that we see rightly. What's essential is invisible to the eyes. Granddad is right there with you. And Granddad won't mess around either, trust me. Jack was a straight shooter. Right, Jack? He won't mess around. So if there's something going down in your lives that needs to be going the other way, he's going to say, hey, measure up. And I know he's going to whisper into your ears, education, education, education. But he's also going to say, you do the best you can. We all make mistakes, and then we don't make life difficult for ourselves permanently by talking negatively to ourselves. But say, hey, this is it. I move on, and I make the best of it. So to the grandchildren, blessings, and to the children. And so, Jack, you continue your life then, of course, at a wonderful, I think, help me out here, Jack, backyard party down in San Rafael, somewhere around there. Miss Silkbert, where are you? Sue, where are you? Right there. And so Jack is at the party. Sue and Suzanne are good friends, and Jack spots this tall, gorgeous lady in the background, and he says, I got to meet her. And so here begins the life then of Suzanne, his wife, and Jack. And many of us were blessed to be present when you made that beautiful commitment to each other on the 20th day of May. And I think I can brag here, Jack, and say, that I've called you all on your anniversary every year, I believe, because it meant so much to me in the light of my own relationship with my wife, Margarita. And so then, you continue to bless your wife with the same gifts that you've blessed your children and grandchildren with, and lots of friends. But I would like to quote a line, Suzanne, from you, if you don't mind, on the remembering again with great gratitude, the 7,962 days that you had with each other as husband and wife. It's extraordinary. And it says here, we held each other, this is gorgeous language, and it's a blessing to all of us. Every one of us is in relationship. And you may say down there, no, I'm not in relationship. I'm on my own. Nonsense. No human being is on their own. We carry communities in our lives, in our heads, in our hearts, and in our feelings all the time. And so, but he says to all of us, because we are in relationship with the 7 billion people on this earth, from all walks of life, and I welcome you this morning from all traditions, all faith traditions, knowing that we're honoring the true meat of faith tradition today in Jack Shaffer, who has exemplified what it's all about in his style of presence. And so to his wife, he says, Suzanne says, we held each other in easy companionship, respect, and deep love. Now, I may use that this afternoon at a wedding at Klein Winery back over in Sonoma. It's such a beautiful... Would that be all right, Jack? Be another way of bringing Jack's presence in here. And so you held each other in easy companionship, respect, and deep love. And there are so many ways you've done that. It could have been reading in your home, just each reading, and maybe sharing what you're reading. It could be taking out his guitar and just stringing it. It could be Jack listening to a piece of jazz music, maybe from New Orleans. It could have been sailing the waters of the Mediterranean over the last couple of years together, that one final beautiful trip up in Alaska. It could have been the honey-do list, Suzanne. I have a hunch you had a number of them. That seems to be ubiquitous to womanhood. Some husbands are very skilled at it, and some are not, such as me. But it could have been the demonstration of love in a new piece of furniture that he skilled. It could have been coming home. It could have been Jack coming home from work and describing an experience at Diablo Community College that day, or at Contra Costa when he worked there, but Diablo Community College in your time together. But it's certainly you experienced his love and his chit-chats about his children, and his chit-chats about his grandchildren, who welcomed you into their family, and were blessed by your style of love and presence. So this is a win situation. And so I know that, again, that Jack is very grateful to your children and grandchildren for welcoming you into the family, for being such an example of continued blessings in their lives. And there's no There's no words to describe the intimacy and the bonding and the closeness that takes place between two human beings such as yourself and Jack. You know them. You know them. So Jack, are you not saying to Suzanne at this moment, thank you for being my wife. Thank you for being there for me all these years. Sometimes when I struggled and wasn't sure, a little bit uncertain, it could be the job, it could be finances, but then most importantly, thank you for being there in my illness. In my illness, you respected me all the way through and gave me autonomy all the way through until I no longer needed the physical body to express it. And your brother as well, right here beside you, who was so supportive and so supportive to Suzanne in your final days. But I'm sure there are other words, but Jack is saying, Meister Eckhart said many, many centuries ago, whenever he was around, when was he around? 13th century, something like that. He said, if the only prayer we ever say in a lifetime is thank you, it is sufficient. And Jack is saying today, thank you, thank you, thank you. And guess what? Jack, are you not saying this to us too? How we say thank you, thank you, thank you. And Jack, I think, has just reminded me that, Pat, it's time to shut up. And I probably a more pleasant way to put that would be, if you were walking through the hinlands of County Roscommon in the west of Ireland, would be doon the Vale, which it also means shut up. It sounds much flowerier, doon the Vale. Like it sounds, oh my God, that sounds nice. Yeah, but so we'll finish here because Don will share with us in a few moments in reference to Jack's friendship, extraordinary friendship, his ability to demonstrate friendship, Jack, your way of showing your love through friendship. And of course, Jane will share on behalf of the family. Then we'll have an opportunity to kind of open it up to the community. And of course, the faith community here, my goodness, Kristen, the Unity Church here for he and Suzanne has been so important to Jack's ongoing faith development as a sense of community. And what the beautiful, the beautiful sense I have of walking in here is you can see Jack's fingerprints on it. Not so, his fingerprints are on it here physically, but his emotional and spiritual fingerprints are on it as well. Why do I say that? Because the openness, the welcome, the sense of community, which is what it's all about. This is what the family of God is about, Father, Son, and Spirit, that Jack is now fully into. It's about family. It's the unity and the bonding and the intimacy within relationship. And that we're given the chance to drink from that as Jack did and does now and did on this earth through his gorgeous gifts here of gentleness and kindness and fidelity and his commitment. Jack has so many beautiful, and of course, I believe is it Lisa, is that correct? Lisa will share regarding from the faith community here as well. So let's just take a quiet moment then to thank you, Jack, for your life and presence on this earth. January 31 until the 18th day of March. I think that on the 18th day of March, when Jack arrived home, he might have ran into St. Patrick right away and said, don't you get fed up, St. Patrick, of your day being always honored like everybody is getting drunk, rather than celebrating what I'm about? He probably said something like that to him. So I'm going to finish with, Jack, on your behalf, if you don't mind, I'm going to finish by a beautiful poem by the late Irish author John O'Donoghue. Some of you may be familiar with him. My wife Marguerite and I have the good fortune to have met him, and his words that he writes here matches his presence as well. And I thought in picking this one, Jack, and Marguerite had probably picked it out, it is written for you, Jack. This poem written by John O'Donoghue in the west of Ireland is written for your husband, Suzanne. It's a beautiful poem. And I'll preface it by a line from a very dear friend of ours in Sonoma by the name of Rose Murphy, who also joined the family of God this past November. And she had written a book, The Secret Irish Bard. And I want to share a line on behalf of you, Jack. from her book that says the following, and a blessing to all of us from the heart of God's love, to the heart of Jack Shaffer's, out into the heart of all of us, and especially the heart of his wife and his son and his daughters and his grandchildren and his son-in-law Eric right here in front of me, whom he welcomed into the family, and walked your wife down the aisle and handed her hand over to you to continue to bless her and your families. And these are the words: some unknown urge beckons me along this path, and into places far beyond my knowing. I must trust the wind that carries me. Blessing of the angels, John O'Donoghue. Jack, these words, in my humble opinion, truly come from your heart as well, to bless us today as we come together historically to honor you, and we'll be in each other's presence forever by being here, having assembled around the guest of honor here this morning, Jack Shaffer. May the angels in their beauty bless you. May they turn towards you streams of blessing. And now he shares the various kinds of angels in our lives. And Jack, you are all of these. May the angel of awakening stir your heart to come alive to the eternal within you, to all the invitations that quietly surround you. May the angel of healing turn your wounds into sources of refreshment. May the angel of the imagination enable you to stand on the true thresholds, at ease with your ambivalence and drawn in new direction, to the glow of your contradictions. And the next line, Jack, is this not you? May the angel of compassion open your eyes to the unseen suffering around you. May the angel of wildness disturb the places where your life is domesticated and too safe. Take you to the territories of what? Of true otherness, where all that is awkward in you can fall into its own rhythm. May the angel of Eros introduce you to the beauty of your senses. And my God, Jack, the video, I knew he was a good-looking man, but my God, what a hunk of a guy Jack Shaffer is. Really. Really. I'm jealous, brother. May the angel of Eros introduce you to the beauty of your senses, to celebrate your inheritance as a temple of the Holy Spirit. May the angel of justice disturb you to take the side of the poor and the wronged. May the angel of encouragement confirm you in worth and self-respect. Grandchildren, granddad, the angel of encouragement confirm you in worth and self-respect, that you may live with the dignity that presides in your soul, grandchildren. May the angel of death arrive only, I'm going to add one line here, arrive only when your life is complete and you have brought every given gift to the threshold where its infinity can shrine and shine. And may all the angels be your sheltering and joyful guardians. Jack Shaffer, physical death has robbed us of your physical presence, but absolutely, unequivocally, without any shadow of doubt, period, paragraph, full stop, has not robbed us in any way of your heart, your being, your presence, your smile, your way of loving, your way of caring, your way of being a husband, your way of being a son, your way of being a brother, your way of being a dad, Abba, dad, way of being a father-in-law, way of being a granddad, the way of being an uncle, the way of welcoming another young man into the family over here, a way of, of blessing, a way of being a friend, a way of being a neighbor, a way of being a... No way. They are all with us, Jack. Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path. and leave a trail. Jack Shaffer, you have done it, will continue to do it, and are doing it. Thank you, my friend. Bless you. I'm supposed to stay up there, I think. Yeah, sorry. Okay. So now I invite Jay, please, Jay, Jack's first child, and Aaron and Megan to share about their dad. Thank you. You're very welcome, very welcome.
Tyler's pretty awesome, though, isn't he?
Thank
Can
you
you guys
very
hear me
much.
through this? Okay, good. Yeah, I've never been involved in any shenanigans, by the way. So.
There's no shenanigans. Zero shenanigans.
So definitely like an overwhelming moment right now to see all you guys out there. It's pretty awesome. I can feel all the love from you guys and everything. And you know, my dad, he was a very, very good speaker. I'm sure a lot of you have heard him speak. He had a great, calm voice. Could calm everyone down, and he was very eloquent. I don't possess any of those qualities, so I really wanted to come up here and just kind of thank everyone for coming. It means a ton to us and my whole family and everyone. And just a couple of little special thank yous I have. Just for everyone for sure. Just my mom and Bill just for making it out. Appreciate that a lot. So some people, they don't, their end of life isn't just swift. Sometimes it takes a little while. And that was the case with my dad. And there's a lot of people that, you know, took care of him and helped to support the people that took care of him. So I definitely wanted to, you know, thank, you know, my kids and Lisa for being there for me, and Ananda for being my co-pilot and all this stuff. And she was definitely a big help and a support. And Suzanne, just for the last couple decades, been taking care of my dad. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And Mike, this guy, he came out to help his sister, but he really came out and helped my dad. And I appreciate that a lot.
He helped all of us.
Yeah,
Very
it was a big deal. And Trish, I know you helped out a lot too, and I appreciate all that from you and your family. And everyone that came out here from somewhere else just to be here today, it's really touching and just makes me feel really good. So, but the person I really want to thank, of course, is this guy over here, because he brought the three of us into the world, or helped to. And, you know, he was just a great role model. You know, he's a great dad, great role model, and I appreciate his sensibilities to everything, and saw the things he introduced me to. You know, I'm sure you saw a bunch of pictures of fish up there. He was a big fisherman. He turned me on to that. I still continue that tradition. And I don't actually play tennis, but my dad watched tennis a lot when I was a kid. And for some reason that stuck with me, so today I watch a lot of tennis, which is strange. And the golfing thing, you know, I still play golf, and I remember just being a kid and seeing a set of golf clubs in the garage and just being mesmerized by them, all the little pockets and the balls and the gloves and everything. So yeah, still to this day, every time I hit a golf ball, I give him a little thank you. So. Yeah, he was just a great role model and a very good father, and he was always there to support me and my sisters, and I couldn't be more thankful to have him as a dad. So, I don't know if these guys want to say a little something too.
I think going through this whole journey right now with losing our father, the biggest thing I come back to is how grateful I am and have been in this life to have him as our dad, as our father, and someone who is always was there no matter what was going on in our lives. We could always be there and count on him for that journey of his life, and I imagine we'll tap into his energy when we need it. Whenever we're going through anything, or happy or sad, or whatever that looks like. But that is what I have to say. Thank you.
I'm not going to say much because this is not a comfortable place for me to be, but thank you all for being here today. It means a lot. You've all touched my dad and us as a family, and we appreciate all of the love and the experience that we have come together, and it really means a lot to myself and to my brothers and to my brother and sister and to Suzanne. It's amazing. It feels good to be part of this community, so I'm happy he's had all of you to support and to be a part of this. It means a lot. Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah, just again, thank you guys. I think Pat was going to come back up here real quick, so.
As we know, there are many communities, Jack, that you've been part of throughout your life. JC's down in San Rafael with Joe and Freeman. And then for the last multiple years in the East Bay here, a group of gentlemen that have been meeting once a month for years. And so I invite Don to please come forward and share on behalf of this community that meant so much to Jack.
I'm always more comfortable doing something mechanical, so I'm going to raise this. It doesn't raise. Okay. It's really my honor to speak on behalf of a small group of men known as the Men's Group, of which Jack was a member for the past 26 years. I'd like to ask the members of the men's group to stand up, please. Thank you. What is the men's group? 3 decades ago, a couple guys started meeting regularly to talk about things that matter. That nucleus grew over the years to become a steady, dedicated group of roughly a half dozen men, meeting regularly at one or another's house to safely talk about whatever was on our mind. These morning conversations, sometimes heavy, sometimes light, always with some laughter, were held over coffee or juice or fresh baked bread, decadent pastries, and fresh fruit. And even one time, a tasting of spiritus fermenti. Most importantly, these meetings were and still are a place to be transparent and supportive. This gathering of eagles has had no formality, no set agenda, no reading of the minutes, just solidarity among friends. And no rule book, other than the legendary 12-volume men's group bylaws. And I quote from Chapter 12, Section 9, Article 3, Subsection 4, Paragraph 27, which says, and I quote, "A meeting without mirth is a day without sunshine." Our bylaws permit occasional social gatherings with our better halves. Jack and Suzanne were an active part of this larger group of couples, sharing many birthday toasts, getaway weekends on the coast, exquisite potluck meals, whether at someone's formal dining table or in a backyard, for barbecue and croquet. We are grateful to our spouses for their support through thick and thin. These men brought to the table, and still bring, an encyclopedic range of topics, from heavenly, cosmic, to to the earthly, global, to the very private and personal. Jack was always an active and engaged member of the group. He would not hesitate to offer his thoughts and feelings about the afterlife, astronomy, politics, philosophy, travel news, psychology, relationships, science, religion, advances in medicine, wine, in particular 1976 Linton Springs Zinfandel, brass instrument instruction, artificial intelligence, book reviews, the environment, the State of the Union, the ups and downs of investing, the ups and downs of working for a living, preparation for retirement, adjustment to retirement, embracing our seniority, and dealing with personal health, including, as we age, the ups and downs of just trying to get up and down. Jack was easy to talk to because he was a good listener. And when he spoke from the heart. A straight shooter. We witnessed his genuine depth of appreciation of so many things. For Jack the golfer, it wasn't about winning the game, it was about his passion and enjoyment of the game. As a Chabot Space and Science Center astronomy volunteer, he would delight in sitting at the lunch table listening to real scientists talk about real things like black holes. Several of us in the men's group are tool guys who like to build things. Jack was definitely a tool guy. We worked well together as carpenters over a period of days, building a storage shed next to his Pleasant Hill home, a sweet memory. Then there were the hamburgers on the way to Jack's toy store, the seductive high-end hardware store with lots of shiny stuff to make sawdust. Ranging from the stardust of astronomy to the sawdust of woodworking, Jack had an appetite for learning new things. He had the capacity to say yes to a challenging opportunity he knew little about, and then rapidly master it. As the years passed, our group's health issues crept more and more to center stage, as one or another of us would volunteer a health report. We called them organ recitals. These reports were especially punctuated when one of us was enduring a serious health crisis or savoring a winning health victory. Although cancer had previously reared its ugly head within our group, when Jack shared the news of his cancer, it struck us as especially surprising and worrisome because he always seemed to be one of the more healthy guys in the circle. Over the past 2 years, he was candid about the treatments and the progression of the disease and his optimism about beating it. He was open with us and about how he was coping with it. He was a positive model for dealing with life-threatening illness. Finally, Jack maintained his dignity throughout his struggle, and he'd share with us his love and concern for Suzanne as she supported him throughout his journey. Jack, we will miss you.
Thank you, Don. Now I invite Lisa on behalf of our faith community here, Unity Church.
Hi, I'm Lisa, and it was my privilege to be a dear friend of Jack's, along with apparently thousands of others. I'm also president of the Board of Trustees here, and I would say that the day that Jack and Suzanne walked into Unity was a lucky day for Unity. When they walked into the door of our old blue funky sanctuary, more about that later, he came in and he was a very wise and caring leader of our spiritual community here, starting out as an usher, like many of us, yes. And he also was participated in a program that we had in 2000, Future Search 2010. And it was a group of the community that got together to plan for the future of our church. And one of the two main goals that came out of that was renewed facilities and more room for the children, better room for the children. And more about that later. So Jack joined our board of trustees and served as vice president. And another really important thing that he did is our lower parking lot down there used to be this potholed, gravelly, empty lot. And Jack, with Suzanne and Jerry Oliver, led the effort to get it paved and to do the landscaping and everything. And it was such a lovely, I love that walk. Every time I walk along that walk, it makes me so happy. And it makes me think of Jack. And his leadership also extended to a time that's always a difficult time for a church, which is when you have a transition of your minister. And Jack chaired the search committee that started in 2002. And as Marion Crew, who's one of the members, said, he did an extraordinary job. There were many times he had to calm the waves of the many diverse opinions of the people on the team. And if you know Unity at all, you know that's very true. Very true. And that search committee ultimately brought us Reverend David, who was our beloved senior minister for many, many years. He and Suzanne brought to our church the concept of play dates. And they're something really fun that we do. It's like children's play dates, but for adults. And they hosted many of them, game nights at their home, golf outings. And in fact, Reverend David remembers him as a very brave soul who took David golfing for the very first time. And then he was a member of our men's group. And again, his wise and caring and calm leadership were very valuable to our men's group. I know that too. He was what I really want to talk about, though, is when the 2000 planning came to fruition. In 2007, we kicked off our Love in Action campaign that ended up with us raising enough money and to renovate our facilities. And Jack led the group that Charlene has told me the name of it several times, and somebody knows it, but I don't. So I'll just call it the design and construction team. And as you saw in the video, that was Jack in the middle of the construction. And as planned in 2000 and as desired, we did get our renewed facilities, and we did get much more wonderful space for our children. And on October 10th, 2010, hopefully the picture will come up, we came back to our facilities, and that's Jack and Suzanne at our big gala that we had to celebrate. And Jack was so instrumental. He herded the architect, he herded the general contractor, all of the other trades, and that right there proves he was a Superman. And Jack was always a big supporter of all of our fundraisers and a very generous giver to the financial well-being of our spiritual community. We're so grateful for that. He was also a heart minister at the time, which is our prayer chaplains, and he was always available. He was always available after Sundays to pray with people. He was always at the prayer services. He was the voice of our Christmas Eve service for many years. And when he first arrived here at Unity, the friendships, I think, came first, and the deep friendships that so many of us had with Jack. But over time, he realized how much it meant to him spiritually to be here. And as Reverend David said, he was a deeply spiritual, caring man who inspired others by the quality of his presence. And we are so grateful that Jack called Unity his spiritual home.
Now, Jack, we know you love parties and gatherings, and this is a party and gathering in honor of your name, in honor of your presence. So we have a few minutes right now for any members of the community that want to share with us, and how we can do that is if it has arrived here for you to say something and it's moving up to here, then we'd like you to line up here. If it hasn't arrived here, then it's probably not intended. So for those of you where it's moving up, the words are moving up along the ladder, we invite you here. We have a few moments, and just be kind of aware and sensitive. There may be a number of people that want to speak, and I know that there's food out there waiting for us, and Jack, you may be getting tired yourself, I'm not sure. So, okay, so please, who would like to begin? And we just invite each person to tell, my name is, and so folks will know who we are.
Could you do it for me?
No.
My name is Rick, and it's such a tribute to Jack to see everybody here. I know he's smiling down on us and loved every one of you. My wife Jan and I met Jack and Suzanne at this church. Way back then there was a balcony up there, and we sat up there, and pretty soon Jack and Suzanne decided they wanted to sit up there. But then they realized it was better to sit down here, because everybody up there was just talking and they couldn't pay attention. We got to know them at social gatherings, probably crashed some of their play dates. And through that, I learned that Jack liked to play golf and fish. He and I went golfing a few times, and Jack wasn't the best golfer, but he was okay. He would hit a stray shot. He would say, "Boy, that was a bad shot," and laugh. We'd get in the cart and go find his ball, and it would start all over again. You can imagine 18 holes. By the time you're done, your sides hurt. You were laughing so much. When I gave up golf, we started fishing together. And you saw a lot of pictures of Jack fishing. Jack understood the concept of fishing. If you caught a fish, that just meant that you knew what you were going to have for dinner that night. Jack loved the outdoors. From the show that you guys put together to the display, most of them were outdoors. He loved to be outdoors, and he and Suzanne would, go on trips. You would see pictures they would send. They're outdoors all the time, whether he was doing gardening or on trips. Jack enjoyed being out in nature. He could name every bird that flew by. He was a true steward of our environment, and I think we can all, be blessed by that. One night, a group of us were getting together for for dinner in a comedy club, and Jack and Suzanne showed up, and they showed up first, and told Jan and I that he had just been diagnosed with cancer. Our hearts sank, obviously, and at that time, I made a commitment that I was going to help Jack as much as I could. Jack unwittingly got me to do a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have done, but it was all for Jack and Suzanne. Soon plans were made to have dinners brought to Jack and Suzanne as they were going through all of this. And shortly after that, a prayer group was started. And at 6 o'clock, friends and family and we set our alarms for 6 o'clock on our phones, and everybody stopped what they were doing, spent a few moments in prayer and holding Jack and Suzanne. You could be someplace with friends, and at 6, all the phones would go off. And I remember being at a party one time with them, and 6 o'clock came around, the alarms go off. We all kind of, got in different groups, and we do our meditation and prayer and hold everybody. And at the end, Suzanne says, "This was so wonderful." And I felt like just bits of light was circling around me, like I was in a vortex of light and held so tight. And somebody in the group said, "I was sprinkling you with pixie dust." Both Jack and Suzanne said they could feel the power of all of the prayer that came to them. And I believe that, that it helped Jack. Having experienced this phenomenon firsthand, I would like to suggest that this tradition continue as we support Suzanne and her family and others who would benefit from, from this exercise, and including our nation and our world, because that needs help too. And I know Jack is doing what he can right now. Suzanne was still working the first year of Jack's treatment, and since I'm retired, I was able to take Jack to his treatments as needed. I got to know more about Jack, his thoughts and philosophies. And through this journey, the gift to Jan and I has been a deeper bond with Jack and Suzanne, of which we are very grateful. Jack and Suzanne walked through the valley of the shadow of death, and like Reverend Kristen said to us recently, they didn't pitch a tent in it. They showed strength and courage through every challenge. And Suzanne, you're truly an example of unconditional love. We saw that, and we appreciate it. I'd like to thank Jay, Aaron, and Megan for sharing their father with us. That was a tremendous gift from you guys. He was a class act, and we all loved him. And Suzanne's brothers, Mike, I would like to thank you for everything that you did for Suzanne this last month. I hadn't met you before, and when I met you out at Rio Vista, and you said you were moving to Wendover, my vision of Wendover was, as a kid driving through there was a couple of gas stations with slot machines, and a couple of diners with slot machines, and liquor stores where you could buy cheap liquor. That was, he says it's still the same. And I said, "Why are you going to move to Wendover?" And he said to me, which was profound, "I wanted another place to help my Lord." Well, I'm glad you came to Rio Vista first, because he's shining on you. You did a tremendous job for Suzanne, and I appreciate that. I think we all appreciate that. Thank you.
I suppose I should apologize because this old Marine may cry. This has been hard. Okay. Betty and I wouldn't miss this celebration of life for our dear friend Jack Shaffer. You might say, all right, who are you to honor Jack? Well, I'm John Newton. I'm also known as Mr. Betty. In fact, Betty helped you guys. You don't realize it. That stack of paper that I had is now this. Jack and Suzanne have been our friends for a quarter century. This has been filled with joint activities, meals together, of course, visiting each other as often as we could, and we wish it was more. Special family occasions, yep, many of them. Watching football, good activity. Camping, many times. Nature walks, yep. And of course, stargazing. In fact, at one camping experience, the first one that they joined us up in McCarricker State Park, we knew Jack had an interest in stargazing. Talked to the naturalist there. He's a heck of a guy. He went out and talked the head ranger into buying a new telescope. And that night we had stargazing, and after all the other people had left, the four of us were there for an hour plus, looking at this, that, and the other thing. Special memories. Betty and I feel honored to be part of this celebration of life of our friend Jack. As you all know, he was a special man. Thank you.
I'm Dan Perry. I am Suzanne's big brother and Michael's big brother. Okay. I have to continue to remind him that I'm his big brother. Okay. But I wanted to just take a couple of minutes today, and for Jack's grandkids, and for those else of you that are young here, I want to remind you the reason the rest of us are here is we're all practicing for this time in our own existence, because we are all headed for the same destination. It is unavoidable. And when we have prayers and we pray for continuation in life, those prayers, I think, are literally nearly always granted. It may be that we only have a few moments more, but those few moments are the things that we do have. And what we have heard today is not about passing, it is about what impact we take and how we use each moment that we are granted here. We are all, when I just tell you a funny story, when I go to a doctor's office or something like that, and somebody asks me how I'm doing, I will always say, oh, well, I'm terminally ill. And they look at me and say, well, what do you have? And I says, I really don't know. Okay. And how long do you have to live? And I says, I don't know that either. But I do know that I am terminally ill. That is for a fact. And so what it does is it reminds us that what we have to do, and this whole time today and this celebration today has been an example of how we spend the moments that we are given, and to make sure those moments are well spent. Every time I've talked to Jack since I've known him, when I get through talking to him, I tell him how grateful I am that he has taken such good care of my sister. I am forever grateful for my friend, Jack Shaffer.
I'm Joe Stewart. Jack and I went to our first meeting of the San Rafael JC's Junior Chamber on the same night, right about 50 years ago, and joined that club, and that was the beginning of my journey with Jack. We formed sort of our own men's group along the way. Some years after that, we left the JCs long behind, but we ended up with a group of about half a dozen whose genesis were that we'd been in the JCs 20 years earlier. And we got together and did the same sort of thing that you folks did. We met, only it was once, twice, thrice a year, and spent a weekend, and would each in turn talk about what's going on in our lives, the problems we were facing, the joys, the sorrows, all of that stuff. And it was good because we'd known each other since we were in our early 20s, most of us. And you couldn't snow them because they knew you from 25 years earlier. And that makes it kind of hard to puff yourself up too far. But our relationship continued, and we had, I think I spent maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 New Year's Eves with Jack. First with lovely Sally, the kid's mom, who's come here from New Mexico, and I loved some of those weekends or periods of time down at Pajaro Dunes. We'd walk along the sand, we'd sit and watch the waves. The turtles, the ladies called themselves. I'm not quite sure what brought that. But Jack was always there. I'm trying to think of a time where he was angry or had a harsh thing to say about somebody, and maybe some of that has worn out of my brain over time, but I can't think of one. He always was seeing the good in people. He always had good things to say, and wise things to say, and sympathetic. Whatever the time was, and the occasion, and the feelings, Jack was there. But mainly, as I thought about him particularly the past couple of weeks, that was the feeling that I was taken with most. Was the upness, if you will, of Jack Shaffer. He was a major model, as I think you folks over here and kids know he was, and I'll miss him forever. But I have talked with him. I do talk with him even now. Thank you.
My name has been mentioned as Mike Perry. Helping Jack as his body was leaving this earth. Helping my sister. My thoughts right now are for his grandchildren, and for his children, and for my sister, and for all you friends, but kind of in that order. Because I remember losing my grandparents. And those were the first deaths that I had in my life. And death was new for me at that time. And as I've grown, I haven't thought much about death. And then my mother died. Then it came to me again. I never had any friends die. It was family. And then my father died. And I was really close to my father because I lived with my father when the rest of my siblings lived with my mother. And I was more like my father. I was one who worked with my hands. So I know there's something about genes. Now, my brother Dan that just spoke, he has his hands and he has a lot to do that I don't have. He has a mind that remembers things. My mind has never had a good memory. Otherwise, I would have joined the Navy and gone on and done what my brother Dan has done. My sister Suzanne has a wonderful mind. She remembers things beautifully. But back to family. I want to leave us all with something as we think about those who have left, those that we are really our mothers and our fathers and our grandfathers. We have genes within inside of us. I think about racehorses often. I think about how those genes make a racehorse run. I think about who I am. And I think about my parents and the genes that have come to me through them, and my sister and my brother and my children. And I see those genes in our family. Jack had a gene I want to let you know that I don't possess. I do possess, but I have to work on it. But his came naturally, and you children and grandchildren have that gene. It is called, as Titus puts it, and I tried to look this up of Titus where he said, because I don't have a great memory, but I heard somebody say to me one time that Titus says of all the manifestations of power, restraint impresses men the most. I had a conflict with Suzanne when my daughter Tricia was getting married. I was taking some medication. I wasn't a very happy camper. And I'd said something that was very hurtful to my sister. Jack heard it. Now, some people would get up and just nail me and tell me how bad that was. But Jack had patience, and he waited with the power and the meekness that Jack was. And he came into me sometime later, and he says, Michael, you've hurt your sister. You owe her an apology. I know that's who Jack was throughout his life. He was one who would think through things and say things at the right time to benefit others without hurting them. You children and grandchildren, you have that. It's in your genes. Relish it.
I just want to say I love all the focus on isness as opposed to wasness. This morning, as I was even thinking, was I going to say anything? A song kept going off in my head. It's from a musical, and it's like "Is you is or is you ain't," and I keep getting the message I is and Jack is, and it's just a question of form, whatever that veil is. When we first came to Unity, I kind of thought Jack and Suzanne were like the pillars of the community. That's what that felt like to me. But got to know that they were really fun people. And what was really cool is Louise and I did motorhoming for several years, and we put ourselves up for auction. And together with another couple, Jack and Suzanne, they won us. And that was like such a cool experience. I mean, I still remember a meditation Louise led us on that ended with a bee stinging her, and all of a sudden I heard words coming out of Louise. But no, I'm not going to quote them, I promise. Jack knows what I'm talking about. But anyway, I think that's part of what got us really closer, and I got to experience that love of the outdoors that you guys have, that we have, and had some good times with that. What else I want to say is I've known two women in my experience of life who really were there when the blank hit the fan. One of them is my nephew's wife, Yet, who he went through multiple sclerosis, and she was there as his primary caretaker. And the other is Suzanne. I mean, I've been thinking about just, when the blank hit the fan, you were there, and so you had good picking skills, Jack. And, we all wonder when that stuff happens, are we going to rise to the challenge or whatever? And it's like, I hope I would, and I know I would, but you'd be like a model for me on that. And I think Jack was a very lucky man, as you were a lucky woman. And to the kids and to the grandkids, I don't know what it is about that relationship as a grandfather, but I know that when Aisha, my granddaughter, went through the fear of death thing, just going through that, like what happens then. And we would talk that through, and she asked me for a commitment, and I consider it my greatest commitment, is that when she goes, I'll be there as the first one to greet her. So it's like, to me, I hold that as my highest mission when I go to wherever that veil takes me, is that I got to stand in queue. I will fight everybody in line for when she comes, I will greet her. And I believe that that's something she'll hold in her heart. I've heard some talk about Jack's love of astronomy, and I really think of, like, I'm visualizing this time he told us about this thing that he's going to Chabot at the Space and Science Center there, and was it a mission to Mars or something like that, is kind of what I remember, is that he was like one of the docents of the mission to Mars, which I thought was so cool because I love the space program. And so to the kids and to the grandkids, I mean, you already know this, but one of the places, if you ever want to see Jack, he's in here, but you can project him anywhere you want. And to see him. And I think one of the places you could see him is point the telescope to Mars, to the red planet, and there he is. Anyway, thank you. God bless you.
Hi, I'm Charlie Paduano, and I've had a lot of time in different ways to be with Jack, the men's group and Bocce. And this last year, actually the last 2 years, Jack allowed me to pray with him and to sit with him. And just a couple of months ago, I really was hit with, Jack taught me the gift of giving and receiving. Because all throughout this, especially this last 2 years, Jack allowed people to give to him. He allowed people, his family and friends, to give to him, to give him love and support. And it was such a wonderful gift because he gave back. And he let us know that it is a circle of energy. And that the more you allow someone to step in and share their love, even if he didn't quite understand what it was all about. I was so interesting to watch him drink the fruit juices in the morning, because a part of him just didn't understand why he was doing it. But he did it because his daughter said, "This will help you." He recognized it was a gift from his daughter. It was a gift of love and support. And that's what Jack gave back. And I was just so touched with how much he gave back to me in all those exchanges. And he did that throughout this community with so many people. And especially in the last years, he allowed himself to receive. And it was hard for him, because we all grew up with this thing that it's better to give than to receive. And the reality is it's a circle of energy. And the more you receive, the more you give. And that's Jack's memory to me. So thank you. And it was a pleasure to meet the rest of his family and just know how much a part of him you are. So thank you.
So for our final blessing, I'm going to invite all of us to stand, and Pastor will join us. But before we do so, thank you all. Please stand. Again to Pastor Kristen. Where are you? Thank you very much for a beautiful invitation into your community here. We want to thank Jack for the song, David Brooks for the song, and John and Annie, who put a lot of work into preparation for this. And again, as we salute Jack, we say to his lovely wife Suzanne, to Jay, Aaron, Eric, to Megan, to Noah, Ruby, and Sadie, and all the other family members, our condolences to you all as you experience your dad's physical loss. And that we'll now be blessed with another beautiful song. We remain standing so we can get into the energy of it, you know.
I offer this as a personal thank you to Jack whom I will always feel like I had too little time with, and perhaps some words that he might have said. One, two, one, two, three, four. This has been a good life, but the time has come to go, and it breaks my heart to leave behind the ones that I love so. But they say all things must pass. My time has come today, so wish me well and help me as I move upon my way. So hold me close and always keep this feeling in your heart to warm you when the nights are cold and it seems we are apart. We know that hearts so close will find a way to meet again. So thank you for this time. I will be seeing you, my friend. Now I close my eyes, this chapter coming to an end. I see the meaning in my life in every twist and bend. I hope that I have done my role to leave a better place, and every now and then have put a smile upon her face. So remember all the joy we've had, the blessings of our day. Don't let my leaving take from you more joy upon your way. Know how grateful I am for each moment that we've spent, and thank you for this time. I will be seeing you, my friend. So cherish every moment that you have until your last, and always strive to make this life you're living be your best. Don't let the small mistakes you make pile up to bring you down, and know that these were just your chance to grow a bit this round. Now hold me close and always keep this feeling in your heart to warm you when the nights are cold and it seems we are apart. Oh, I
Some people are good family men or women, and some people are good with their work. Some people are good at playing. Some people are more spiritual in their expression, more attached to community than others. Who I've met today is somebody who does all of it well. And so I know that we will miss that presence in our lives. And I know too that Jack has taught us in his life, as he continues to teach us in his new form, to rise up, to meet those standards. Thank you so much for the heartfelt sharing, Father. It was really, really touching. And all of you who shared today, to fill in those gaps for us, to get that sense of well-roundedness, of fullness, of both our divinity and our humanity. So let us take a moment to pray, and then we'll go out and celebrate. I want to also let you know that after the close of my prayer, if you would like a little bit more prayer support, we have prayer chaplains wearing lavender stoles, and they are happy to pray with you. They'll be at the back of the sanctuary and then milling about. We'll also invite you onto the patio just to enjoy some beverages for about 10 minutes, and we'll let the family go first into the community room to start their meal, and then we'll follow. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for being a part of this celebration, and let us take a moment to come together once again in prayer. And if you feel like you'd like to hold a hand next to you, I invite you to do that. Or if you'd rather put a hand on your heart. And so, Jack, we know this is not goodbye. That there has been and continues to be a letting go for sure. But there is also a hello to a new way of communicating, to the fullness of consciousness that is available to us now in a whole new way, beyond time, beyond matter. There is you and each of us, able to meet, to share on a whole new level. So we thank you, Jack, and we thank you, Spirit, for that gift. We thank you for this life that has inspired us, touched us, moved us, supported us, encouraged us. We give thanks for the opportunity to be reminded of the preciousness of life. We go forth with a commitment to Jack, to the God of our own naming, to ourselves, to live in this way, fully engaged in every way, in every aspect of life, with an ease and a calm, with the truth of who we are, our own best versions of people like Jack. So we thank you, Spirit, and thank each of you today for this beautiful sharing, for this collective time of mourning and celebration, all intermixed together, for this joyous and sometimes messy life, and for death itself, which is simply rebirth. We give thanks, and so it is. Amen. Please come enjoy.
John. Nice.